I've probably had 100 different contexts here that fall into this category. I've had parents approach me and say, hey, my kids and their friends, like I've got 5 or 6 kids, will you work with them? And that could be me working with those kids, or it can be me going into a school because there's a teacher who I know who's like, oh, I would love you if you did this with my kids. It's a blend of like me doing what I love to do, but also like giving the teacher something valuable because it's like a professional development.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Grow Healthy, Help People podcast, a podcast that Accordis puts on. We are here this morning with Rob from STEM Passport. How are you this morning, Rob?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I'm doing great. So tell everybody where you are calling from.
I'm in Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Chapel Hill, North Carolina.
Yeah.
So before we get into all the amazing things you are doing at STEM Passport, I want to know a little bit about kind of growing up and going through high school and college. Like, what did you have in mind for your future? Was it running a nonprofit, or did this just kind of come out of
No.
the blue?
Yeah. So I grew up in Queens, New York.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved down here back in 2017. So I
Awesome.
grew up in New York City. Yeah, and let me just think. I guess like I went to pretty small schools growing up. I absolutely hated school. I liked my friends and everything, but I was bored out of my mind, and so and I think like a lot of people, I'm turning 50 this year, and so I can't say like how different it is for someone who's a little bit younger growing up and how things have changed, but back then we were in the classic rows, like one desk behind the other and no talking the entire day, and and so and that was how that persisted through high school, and so college was like unleashing an animal into the wild. I was like,
Yes.
like
I can do anything.
yeah, I can decide to go to class, you know what I mean, or not. I almost failed out of college, I was like, because I was, so, but I think like I had dreams of going into something in healthcare, maybe, I really liked biology and, but ultimately I wound up getting into finishing college up at SUNY Albany, and then getting into thinking about becoming a chiropractor, which is like a very, very far stretch from where I am now. Went to a year of school out in Connecticut, was doing really, really well there. And then my best friend at the time, we were 22, diagnosed with esophageal cancer and died a year later. It's a brutal disease, esophageal cancer in particular. And so, I took a leave of absence, started working at a hospital, and that was probably the first time I was in like a service industry. My dad is big in nonprofit, so like I kind of knew what that looked like. My mom was a nurse, so I know what this world looks like. Yeah, and then like I was on the subway one day, going home from work, and I saw an ad for something called the New York City Teaching Fellows, and this is like, we're desperate for teachers, and we don't care like if you ever took an education course in your life, which I never had. Come and join us, and like 3 months later, I was in a classroom in a hard to staff school in Queens, New York, right? Yeah, and then that led to basically a career in education, and the nonprofit kind of came much like 15 years later is when I started STEM Passport. After teaching in New York City for almost 15 years, but seeing the need for education services for kids.
Yes. Yeah. Absolutely. Wow. That is a wild ride. Yeah. Going from like medical to teaching to nonprofit. Yeah. It's been a journey.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So tell me, okay, so when did you start STEM Passport?
2015 or
In
so.
2015.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about what exactly you do. What are the different programs that you guys have currently in place?
Yeah. So it was, I had left the DOE in New York, and then I started really getting into, well, I started working as the director of education at a nonprofit, not STEM Passport, right? And so like that was my entry into nonprofit world, understanding how like grant money coming in pays for programming for kids. I think people think like with nonprofits, like when I tell people, oh, I do nonprofit, like I think they think that like I just, you know, I don't get paid. You know what I mean? Like I work for free. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, that's not a business, you know, you just like, you know, so, but it's, you know, it's not quite like that. It's, you know, I started to see, oh, this is actually like a form of a corporation. Like this is like, you know, we have to run the place in order to run the programs, right? And so, yeah, I mean, like that was my, you know, over the course of the time that I was there, I really just learned like the ins and outs of how that all worked. Like you need a CEO and a CFO, and you need a, you know, you need this entire infrastructure, you know. And my STEM passport is very small, so all of that infrastructure is me, basically, you know, which a lot of people out there who are doing this know. But yeah, I mean that was kind of like how it all came together. The types of programs that I do though all go back to my teaching experience, which was elementary school science basically. So I kind of range from, you know, pre-kindergarten through eighth grade, I would say. Once kids hit like eighth grade, they start to age. They're not entertained by me anymore. You know what I mean? Like like my programs kind of expire at that point. But for those years, you know, the things that I do are all hands on, you know, science, technology, engineering, math, and a lot of game and play based work is like really what
Okay.
I focus on. That's what my doctorate is in. So,
Okay. So where is your reach at?
what do you mean? Like the
Yeah, like location, like how do you get to these students? How are you reaching
oh
these kids? Where are you at? Where, yeah.
yeah. So it's funny. Like I'm living down here in North Carolina.
Yeah.
Most of my programming and clients are still in New York. So yeah, so I'm still running programs through New York City public schools, New York City nonprofits, and then I have private. I have, and then my for-profit business. I have clients that are more global. You know, so like I might work with kids in London or, you know, across the country or wherever. But and honestly, like that's probably 10% of my time, but it covers like 90% of my expenses. You know what I mean? Like, so where the nonprofit is 90% of my time and covers 10% of my expenses, you know? So, you know what I mean? Like, I think a lot of us out there know that world too. So, but yeah, that's the reach I'm trying to build up. When I moved down here though to North Carolina, I was actually shocked compared to New York to see how little or how few free programs there were for kids after school. Like there's almost none. And so, you know, I didn't realize how spoiled I was in New York City with the funding, if that makes sense. You know, everyone wants to fund something in a big city. Not everyone wants to fund something in smaller, like, you know, suburban or rural areas, right? So now I'm trying to build something down here now. And that, you know, how that goes, that's just creating this new network, and you need a pretty giant network in order to start, you know, getting the programs going. But so that's where I am now with down here. But yeah, right now the reach is really more still in the Northeast. Yeah.
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 So tell me about, is your for-profit business the same thing, but you know, where your nonprofit is for at-risk students who can't afford these services? Is it the same thing, but for those who can't afford it, do?
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty
Okay,
much.
gotcha.
You know, like there will be, yeah, I don't want to say it's identical, but it's very similar. You know, so it's like, it's kind of weird though, because it's like I'll working with the private clients allows me to buy things, to buy materials, and to buy things, and to test things, and to, you know, where like money is really no object for a family, right? And and their kids are getting more of a one-on-one or one-on-two like experience, right? Like with me. But then what's nice is that like those all of that stuff that I use just becomes part of like a portfolio of things I can use for the on the nonprofit side, right? Because people don't want to, they don't want me to clutter up their house with like all these games and toys and stuff. Like, as long as I keep bringing them back to use with the kids, they're happy with that. So, but yeah, it's a little bit hard though, because I'm trying to transfer something that I'm doing on a 1-to-1 or 1-to-2 basis out to a, like, let's do a program for 2,000 kids or 3,000, so it takes a little bit of, tinkering to, to transfer some of that stuff over. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. So would you say like getting into kind of what I mean, obviously there's a lot of challenges with running a nonprofit. And I always say like people truly have no idea.
Right.
They typically have the idea that, oh, you're this is so great. You're just out there helping people, but they do not even
Yeah.
know all the rest. So with what you're doing, what would you say your biggest challenges are in doing this?
On one hand, the amount of time, the amount of time it takes to, all right, like, let's do a search for grants, right? Like, and I'm just picking one thing out of 10, right? So just that, right? So let's do a search for grants, and then, that can take hours, and then making a list of the ones you can apply for. And then it's like, and I'm going through this right now actually. And then, you find some and you're like, okay, do I have everything I need to even apply for these? Like, I have the 501c3, which took forever to get, but then I'm like, oh, wait a minute, I need like a sam.gov account, and I need what I mean? Like, if it's like an NSF grant, or if it's a government grant, there's a lot of these things. I don't want to say they're designed for larger entities, but if you're a smaller entity, it's kind of like, there's, on one hand, there's like proving yourself that you have the capacity to do something. On the other hand, it's just like, you're trying to do the accounting and the finances and this and the legal, and you're trying to do all of this stuff that you would normally have a team of people doing, you know? And there's some like artificial intelligence assistance in that now, you know what I mean? Like, where you can actually like have a little co-pilot next to you working, but it's still, you're still going through all the motions. So, I mean, that's a huge one, you know? And then like doing taxes, like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, it's like what I would like call compliance, right? So it's just like staying compliant and, yeah, I mean, it's just wearing all the hats.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely.
but
Well, if you're watching this and you are a nonprofit leader, a lot of things that you just said are things that a Cordis really loves to jump in and help with, especially that part where you said having a team. A lot of small nonprofits just don't have that team. Funding is hard to come by, especially now. And just getting people to come in and help you for free, that's even harder because people have jobs, people are working. I mean, it's really difficult to find. And so, what a Cordis can do is they can come in as the back end team and really support you in many areas, but you just have one place that you're having to pay for instead of a whole team. And so, if you're a nonprofit leader out there and you need that assistance and you want to know what it would look like for a Cordis to work for you, please reach out. Our website will be at the end of this podcast, and we would love to talk to you. So, all right, let's look at the future. You have been doing this now for many years, and you've already said you want to kind of pull that into where you're at now. Um, are you at some point thinking, okay, if I can get this program where I'm at now, then I want to keep going, like to state to state to state, do you want to make this worldwide?
yeah, so um, starting in 2020, so it's like, let's say it's been a little over 10 years, right?
Yeah.
But for the last five, starting in 2021, I went back to school and to do a PhD
Wow.
at NC State. But it's directly related to this, because
Yeah.
in a lot of cases, like, without the right credentials, you don't get the
Yes.
attention that you need to get the money. You know what I
Absolutely.
mean? So,
Yep.
yeah, so like, I've literally just finished this on Wednesday. I defended the dissertation Wednesday.
Wow, that's so
But
awesome.
right. So like, but I mean, like, so yeah, so now I'm like full speed ahead, and over the last 5 years, going to conferences, globally,
Hmm.
basically presenting the kind of work that I'm doing, that was me building up a network. And
Yeah.
so people are like, it takes 5 years to build a network. And I'm like, takes longer than that, but like
Yeah.
that's what I spent the last
Yes.
5 years doing. And so yeah, now it's like I have a network of people that I am like collaborating with in different
Yeah.
ways. And we're gonna, start building out programming together because some of these people are other nonprofit people, and some of them
Right.
are for-profit people, and some are just academics, and some
Yeah.
are teachers. And so, yeah, my goal is to build something significant for the kids here, like in the area that I can like literally reach out and
Right.
like work with.
Be involved in. Yeah.
Yeah, and then just have it like grow kind of concentrically outward. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
If
I love
possible.
that.
So
I love that. And I love everything you're saying. Like, I know that any nonprofit leader that watches this is shaking their head thinking, absolutely, because it, there, people do not understand. There are so many nonprofits in every area.
yeah.
There is and they're all doing wonderful, different
Mm-hmm.
things because there's so many different needs. But that just means that all that funding, you're essentially competing for it
Yeah.
with all these other great causes. And so you have to have something that makes you stand out
Yep.
and makes you look like you are the best candidate. And it is just really hard. It is
Yeah.
really,
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
hard. And so I guess that leads me to my next thing is like, we can't just rely obviously on grants
Mm-hmm.
because it's not guaranteed. So what are the ways that people can support you? Obviously, how can they donate to you? And then another thing is like, if they're near you, are you looking for people to help you get anything off the ground right now, or is it mostly financial support you're needing? What kind of support are you looking for?
Yeah, I'd say like especially locally, it's it's be surprised. It's less. It's not that I don't need financial support, but it's more connectivity, so more connective tissue, right? So like people who are anywhere near me who know people who are in need of services, like you know what I mean? Because it's a lot of times it's the people who are going to receive the services that are willing to step up and do some work to make it happen. You know what I mean? So which is nice. And so like that's a big one. And then a lot of a lot of something that a lot of people, well, for what I do, something that a lot of people they may not realize how important it is like the giving of money obviously is always great, but there's also like the giving of other resources. You know what I mean? So like for me, like receiving things that I can use in my lessons. You know what I mean? And like if there's any teachers out there who are doing nonprofit or just who are teaching, like those people know, and you might remember this when you were in school. Like your teacher might have been like, "Hey, tell your parents to send you into school with like the paper towel roll thing, or because they're building like they're building like maker spaces. You know what I mean? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah. Or like old, like something that I started. This is going to be part of what I do here on my property. I don't know if you've ever seen these little free libraries around. Yeah, yeah. So I started a little free toy exchange, right? Because I do game based and toy based learning. So it's a little box, and kids can, they bring, and it can be anything. It can be like a little tiny tchotchke, like, but they bring an old toy, and they put it in and they take something out, and it seems like a tiny thing, but it's a really interesting thing to see a kid who's 4 or 5 years old bringing something that they absolutely treasure and leaving it behind as a trade for something else. Like there's something pretty cool about that. And then like seeing kids come with like, if kids are anything like my son, they're like toy hoarders. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to, they can have this little tiny figurine, they'd rather like, jump off a cliff than lose that thing. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah. So like, I want to build those out to become something like Little Free Library where we can, but then also to give parents the resources to see how can kids, because what I do in my research is like explaining to people how kids build reasoning and logic and other thinking skills with toys and games and things that they like to do. You know what I mean? Instead of like sitting in a lesson and being told what they should know. You know what I mean?
Right.
So,
Yeah. Yes,
right,
exactly.
right.
Yeah.
So,
Okay, so one other question I want to ask, kind of going back a little bit. So when you're when you're doing these programs and when you envision this, even where you're at now, what exactly does it look like? So is this an after school program where you meet with a group of children at a certain location? Is it in a school or is it in a separate building? What does it look like?
Yeah, it can be all of the above. So, it could be, so I've probably had like 100 different contexts here that fall into this category. So I've had parents approach me and say, "Hey, my kids and their friends, like I've got 5 or 6 kids. Will you work with them?" And that could be me working with those kids in their like attic. You know what I mean? Like in like a weird, or it can be me going into a school because there's a teacher who I know who's like, "Oh, I would love you if you did this with my kids." And sometimes that's me. What I like to do most is work directly with the kids, but a lot of times that winds up being me working with the kids as a model for the teacher to watch. So it's a blend of like me doing what I love to do, but also like giving the teacher something valuable because it's like a professional development, or like a professional learning community, right? And that when schools like bring me in, that's usually what it is. It's more like, can you work with our teachers? And my thing is, I don't want to work with your teachers where they're sitting there listening to me lecture to them. Like, let them watch me. If I'm saying that what I do is good for kids, like let me show them directly how it works when I do it with the kids, right? So it's a lot of that. And then there's program development also, which is not as fun for me, but it's like sitting here at this computer and like writing up units and things and but yeah, so it's a lot of different things, but it's all going like in a funnel towards the same goal, which is getting kids from point A to point B pretty much, and getting them to love learning. That's really what it's
Yeah,
about, right?
which is
So
the big thing. Yeah,
mhm.
absolutely. Well, guys, if you are interested in learning more about STEM Passport, we are going to have their website at the end of this podcast episode as well. I would love for you to go check it out and see the awesome things they're doing and consider donating to them, see what they're doing, follow their journey. It's so incredible how they can be there to help, especially kids who can't necessarily afford these services, get that support that they need in education, but in a fun, exciting way. And so I think that's so important. I'm excited to watch you guys grow, and I hope that you go so far and end up in every state in America because I do. I think education is so important. I tell people all the time that I live in the Huntsville area in Alabama, and
Yeah,
we are known for space and engineering and all
yeah,
these things. But there are no STEM programs. We have no
hmm,
extracurricular STEM programs, and it is something that I believe every area should have because I think it's so important
yeah.
for kids. It is so incredibly important. So I love what you're doing, and I truly hope the best for you. I've absolutely loved talking to you today. Thank you for joining us on this podcast.
Oh no, thanks for having me.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we will talk to you next time on Grow Healthy, Help People.